Hi, everyone.
Thank you for joining us. We're going to take a few more minutes to allow others to log on, and then we'll get started.
Greetings. It is indeed my pleasure to welcome you to our 41st webinar in the Coffee with series hosted by the Greenleaf Center for Servant Leadership at Seton Hall University. I'm Reggie Lewis, Executive Director of the Center, and it's great to greet all of you who've logged on today to take part in our conversation with the impactful leaders of Willingboro, New Jersey, Mayor Samantha Whitfield, and Deputy Mayor Dr. Tiffany Worthy, two servant leaders whose mark on the world will be felt for generations to come. I'll give a more formal intro of our distinguished guests in a minute, but first a word about the webinar series and the center. The Coffee with series provides the chance to showcase the inspirational stories of servant leaders and the endless ways in which individuals, organizations, and society in general can be transformed by the power of servant leadership, a philosophy in which the leader first seeks to serve. For over 60 years, the Greenleaf Center has worked to promote the awareness, understanding, and practice of servant leadership. In addition to our Coffee with series, other core programs include the Greenleaf Scholars Program, which funds research on the efficacy and impact of servant leadership, a virtual course designed to provide professionals with the fundamentals of servant leadership practices that are useful within any sector. We also expose high school and college students to opportunities to develop lives of service through our Next Generation initiative. And through our outside engagements, we proudly work closely with organizational partners, as they work to foster optimal growth in employees and nurture vibrant teams to achieve greater impact. Before a proper introduction of our guests, I'd be remiss in not acknowledging the generous sponsor of the Greenleaf Center's 2026 Coffee with Webinar series, the Terrell Fund. The Terrell Fund is a foundation that serves children and families in New Jersey and Vermont. The fund works collaboratively across sectors to make an impact in such issue areas as early childhood, K-12 education, arts, family support, and more. Thank you, thank you, thank you to all of our friends at the Terrell Fund. And now the moment we've all been waiting for. It's truly an honor to welcome today's guest, starting with Mayor Samantha Whitfield. Mayor Samantha Whitfield has served as the mayor of Willingboro Township since 2025, bringing to the role a long-standing commitment to public service, community engagement, and civic leadership. A proud 30-year resident and graduate of the Willingboro Public Schools, she earned a bachelor's degree in sociology from Rutgers University and a master's degree in city and regional planning from the University of Pennsylvania with a concentration in community and economic development. How about that? Prior to becoming mayor, she served as the youngest NAACP branch president in New Jersey and founded SAS Society. Yes, that's SASS, an organization dedicated to empowering women and strengthening communities. Today, Mayor Whitfield continues to focus on building a more connected, transparent, and responsive local government while advancing opportunities for all Willingboro residents. If we all could have a mayor like her. But there's another mayor down there in Willingboro, the Dr. Tiffany Worthy, who serves as deputy mayor. Dr. Worthy has served on the Willingboro Township Council since 2020, bringing a distinguished background in the military service, nonprofit leadership, and organizational management. A graduate of the United States Military Academy, and yes, folks, that is West Point. She is a Bronze Star recipient who served as an Army officer during Operation Iraqi Freedom and later earned a doctorate in human and organizational learning from the George Washington University. As CEO of the All Things Are Possible Foundation, she has dedicated her career to expanding educational opportunities for young people and strengthening community. Today, she continues to apply her experience in leadership, accountability, and public service to help build a more responsive and effective local government for all of Willingboro's residents. Ladies, are you ready for our chat? Dr. Worthy, come on in. And I just want to remind the audience that you too will get a chance to ask our distinguished mayors some questions during our Q&A portion. If I can get us through this portion with this cough, but nothing will stop me and the ladies of Willingboro. Uh, shall we begin? You can unmute yourself, Dr. Worthy. We'll begin. It's so great to have you on our program today. This is a treat for us. We always love talking to local leaders because that's where it all happens, as you both know. But we're curious about your formative years and the motivations for service. So, where did each of you grow up? And are there any fondest memories you'd like to share? Like, the type when you go to a family reunion or high school reunion and somebody knows something about you that, well, what do you say, mayors? The floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Reggie, for having us on today. It's such an honor to be here and to be able to share our experience and our stories with everyone. For me, I grew up here in Willingboro, New Jersey. My family moved to Willingboro when I was just 4 years old from Philadelphia. So I've been here almost my whole life,
Wow.
right? My formative years all happened here in this place that I am now very lucky to be mayor of and to steward. So I think one of my fondest memories, my parents always were very heavy on servants, on being of service in the community. So from a very young age, we were always at all of the community cleanups, always at, library events and township events and volunteering for this and volunteering for that. But when I was in high school here at Willingboro High School, um, that's really where I kind of took that leadership and volunteerism into my own hands. And I made choices that forwarded that because it was so deeply instilled in me. So I was president of a club that we had at the high school called the Z Club, which was an offshoot of the Zonta Club. It was a service organization. And I think that really just solidified my passion for community service, for being of service to people. We would organize events where we made quilts by hand for
Right.
the women's shelter here in town. We did caroling at the hospital, at our local hospital. We went to a local senior home
Mm.
and would do crafts at holiday times and spend time with the seniors. And I think that was so impactful for me because I got to see the benefit of being of service to the community. The people who wouldn't normally get visitors at the hospital or in the senior citizen home would really light up and come to life and enjoy the time that they spent with people that came and was of service to them. So I think that really just solidified for me that this was something that I wanted to do and pushed me further in this direction on my own, not something that my parents were forcing me to do as in earlier years.
Fantastic. Quilting and caroling. All right now.
Yeah.
Dr. Worthy.
Yes, I love these questions. It gives me an opportunity to reflect a little bit and think about how did I get here? For me, I grew up in Washington, D.C., and then my family moved to Prince George's County, Maryland. And as a child in Washington, D.C., there were so many different programs that were hosted and sponsored by our mayor, Marion Barry, at the time, as well as so many of the council folks. And the city of Washington, D.C. was so into having programming for young people. I didn't know what the grown-ups were doing, but they set up University of District of Columbia Saturday school. So I was in
Okay.
Saturday college at 9 years old, catching a train down there to go learn, or going to Anacostia to learn about hot air balloons. And they
Okay.
had these different programs that were set up. And I think that for me, it really showed me the strength of what a city could do, what your
Right.
elected officials could do, working with the schools. Everything was so interconnected. And I understand it's a different form of government of where I live today, but just showing that interconnection and shared sense of community and responsibility. The Department of Recreation hosted huge fashion shows, and you could go to Howard University, to Crampton Auditorium, and do your local Christmas plays. And
Okay.
Crampton Auditorium holds over 5,000 people. And here we are, performing there, showing up on Channel 32 at Howard. I mean, it was just, for me, growing up in the city, it really helped me to see things on, I think, a really big scale, and I was a beneficiary of it. And I think that for me solidified. I want to do something. I want to change the world. I want to
Okay.
do this stuff. Like, I didn't really know how it all worked, but
Okay.
I can really reflect on experiences that I had that I'm so proud of.
Mm.
Growing up in the city and then going to the suburbs and seeing many of the same things, just different economics, different socioeconomics, different demographics, but it was replicated there. And I think my fondest memory for me was I went to school with Christopher Berry, who's passed away, but the son of Mayor Marion Barry. And we called our mayor Uncle Mayor Marion Barry. He was
Okay.
there at the school all the time. Christopher was brought to school in a limousine. And for me, once I came to Willingboro, I shared that my vision is that our electeds would be embedded in the schools, in the community, in the
Mhm.
township recreation department. Like, I want the kids to understand that they can aspire to elected office, that they too can do these things. It's not so lofty. And so I think for me, my some of my fondest memories really were connected to politics, although I didn't fully understand it was political because they were, it was friends. It's who you went to school with. It was their parents. But those are the memories that I
Ah,
think of.
fantastic. What a rich set of experiences. One of my uncles, who's no longer with us, was on the DC police force as officer friendly, and he gave me plenty of stories about your former Mayor Barry, bless his heart. Something else you caught my attention on, Dr. Worthy, the strength of what a city can do. And that's something that you both are demonstrating down there in Willingboro, that a town, a municipality can be a force and a force of good. But also, as a segue into my next question, serving as a town mayor or deputy mayor or city manager, I'm a former city administrator. I know all this can be thankless work. And I'm just curious as to what keeps you committed and willing to step up, even during those rough moments, particularly when you're not making everybody happy. You can't make everybody happy in the public space. But what allows the both of you to continue to step up despite the challenges that come with the territory? Either of you can jump in whenever.
Okay, want me to go,
Go
Mary?
ahead. You can start.
Okay, sure. I think for me, in terms of thankless, I'll speak to that first. I think that at a collective level, it's thankless. But when you're touching the lives of people individually, when they're calling your phone and sending you an email, or you see them in the streets and they have an issue, and you're able to help point them in the right direction, help resolve the issue, get them the resources, you get the thank yous. It's just at the individual level. Now you'll get completely clobbered on social media. You'll get, completely sidelined, even at a township council meeting. But you do get a lot of those individual thank yous. And I think that what keeps me going is really just being working in purpose. Like, I really believe that I am supposed to help other people achieve their potential, to reach their fullest capacity. I really believe that. And I really believe that the strength of working together with Mayor Whitfield and our colleague, Councilwoman McIntosh, is that together, collectively, we're able to help Willingboro to reach its potential and to be able to build the capacity of this town. And so, knowing the strengths that we have, what we ran on, what we stand on today, the work we've been able to do, the vision we have for the future, that keeps me going, because I know we're not done yet. Even though this part of the race may be run, we're not done yet. Willingboro has so much more they can get done, and we have established a foundation for that. So whoever is in the seats, Willingboro can go forward.
Look at that. All right.
And
Mayor
I'll
Whitfield.
say one of the things, if you get into public service or into politics for accolades, you are in the wrong business. Because as you said, all of the decisions that we make are not easy decisions, and they're not always decisions that everyone agrees with. So it can be really difficult sometimes, going through day by day when you make a hard decision, or people aren't particularly happy with the way things are going. But one of the things that really keeps me going is the impact, right? The impact day to day, when new streets get paved, or new businesses open, or redevelopment projects finally are coming into fruition. I had the opportunity this year. Our school district was in need of some substitute teachers, and I stepped up and became a substitute teacher in our district this year, teaching seventh grade civics.
Okay.
Which
Not an easy grade to teach.
not an easy grade at all. But talking to the students, and like Dr. Worthy said, having that close connection and being able to let the students know that we're not untouchable. I'm here with you. I live in this town. You can talk to me. And then also having the opportunity to teach them about democracy, teach them about how to get involved in their communities, what governance looks like, helping them understand election processes, and how laws are made, and how things go on in the community, and then also give them an opportunity to raise their concerns directly to the mayor, was really impactful, and it really kept me going this year, just on a day-to-day basis, interacting with the kids.
Fantastic. Um, let's build on your point, Mayor Whitfield, about accessibility and engagement, and move to our second category. A lot of places are not fortunate to have your kind of leadership. I like Dr. Worthy's point, working in purpose. And you, Mayor Whitfield, talked about the value of seeing that impact. A lot of people feel as though there is no impact made in a way that changes fundamental conditions in their lives. In fact, when people say government isn't working for people like me, what do you both think they are really expressing? And how should public leaders respond to that sentiment? Which, if you think about it, it's really a sentiment of despair, right? Like, I can vote and nothing ever changes. So why vote? Why get involved at all? What do you two say to that?
Yeah, and I think sometimes we get, especially as elected officials and being in it and being so close to it, we sometimes get caught up in no, trying to dispute what they're feeling or contradict what they're saying or what they're communicating to you in saying that government isn't working for me, but I think it's on us to listen, right? That's such a key part of leadership, is listening to the concerns and why, asking the hard questions about why do you feel government isn't working for you? What is it that government isn't doing that's not working for you? And it may be as simple as, oh, my trash never gets picked up on time, and that's something that we can address. Um, so I think having those interactions and asking the questions, getting deeper and not just leaving it on the surface, and dismissing the discontent of people with our political climate currently, because some of the things that are impacting our residents, you know, not all of them are influenced by the local municipal government. Some of them are coming down from federal government, federal policies that people are really feeling the impact of. But we are still here charged with responding, right? And having the resources and the tools to be able to respond to residents' concerns and asking those questions to really understand what's behind their discontent. It's usually not just, oh, people have given up. They
Right.
People don't have in their nature to just give up, but there's something that isn't being addressed that people aren't asking them about, and it's on us to ask those questions.
Absolutely. And the mark of a true servant leader in the government space, choosing to listen, ask the hard questions, and then wait for the response. Absolutely, Mayor Whitfield. Dr. Worthy, what say you?
Yes, I agree with what the mayor has said, and I would like to add, I think often what's happening is what we're hearing is that people are not aware of the different things that government is doing that is helping, that is offsetting different challenges. They may not be aware of different ways that they can get more resources or services, or they're just unaware of some of the services being provided at all. Something that this council is really committed to is improving our communications with the community. We're still playing with it, still tweaking it, still have work to do. But I know that we can do a more effective job of communicating to the residents the things that are happening throughout the community with a limited budget, right? So we don't have the money that McDonald's has to let you know about the newest fandangled thing they're about to offer, but we do need to optimize the resources we have more human connection, more human interaction, even leveraging Instagram and Facebook, less flyers, more people.
Right.
What can we do on TikTok? How can we share the message to make the truth satiable and something that people want to hear instead of, a scandal or gossip? How do we
Yeah.
infiltrate some of the groups on Facebook to share the wonderful things that are going on in the community? So I think sometimes when people are saying government isn't working, what we're hearing is they're not fully aware of what's going on, and we have to do a better job of sharing with them the things that are happening and making sure that we are present and open to receive their ideas and to hear what's not working so we can effectuate some of that change.
And let me build on that, Dr. Worthy, because you all in Willingboro have, from my vantage point, and for our audience, particularly those who are not from New Jersey, in our state, we have the distinction, sometimes folks say the curse, of having more municipalities per capita than anybody in the country. So we have 566 towns and municipalities. So hard to have economies of scale, lower the tax base, and all that stuff. One of the required processes of every town, again, as a former city administrator, is that you've got to do something called a multi-year master plan, laying out the vision for your town, particularly around economic development, and meeting the needs of your residents. And these distinguished mayors in Willingboro have put together, from what we've uncovered in our research here at the center, one of the most amazing processes for broad scale engagement that we've seen among New Jersey's municipalities. I'd like the ladies to talk about that, and that includes how you've convened residents to, building on Dr. Worthy's point, to actually get their ideas and recommendations.
Before I turn it over to the mayor, because she is going to run this thing and let you all know, I want to say kudos, major kudos to our mayor, who actually began her degree program at UPenn to study master planning before she even sought elected office.
Look
And
at that.
so she was graduating literally a month before the primary election,
Ah,
when we actually were seated. And so it was whether we win or not, whether we run for office or not, she was already committed to figuring out how to engage the community and have a master planning process so that we would have a master plan that reflects Willingboro. So I'm going to turn it over to our mayor,
I love it.
Samantha Whitfield.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite topics to talk about. As you mentioned earlier, I went to UPenn to study city and regional planning, and that was all inspired by my integration in the Willingboro community. There was a lot of talk at council meetings at the time about we need to update our master plan. We need to update our master plan, and that call was coming from residents. And I did some research and took it upon myself to go back to school to get the education to be able to help my town. The intention was not to seek elected office. It was to help the town with our master plan. And then also, before I took office, I also had applied for a grant and was able to receive a grant to help with the community engagement piece of that master plan. It was the community heart and soul process, and we received a grant to help with the community engagement. And community engagement is such a critical point, I think, of especially a master planning process where it's usually very paternalistic, right? You usually hire an expert. The expert says, here's what you should do in your master plan. And who they're planning for is usually the people that they think they want to live in the town and not the people that actually live there, right? So I went out, I got the grant. We were able to do a very broad scale community engagement effort, engaging residents at events that were already set up, talking to them one-on-one, asking what their concerns were, what they liked about the community, what keeps them here. And those were some of the things that we really wanted to focus on, not just what we want to change, but where do you see us going and why do you stay here? What is it about this place that keeps you here? Because we want to make sure that we don't lose that in the future. We want to hold on to the things that are holding people here. So throughout the process, hearing the feedback from the residents and starting that before we even hired a professional to help us with the master plan really helped inform who we wanted to help us with the process. And I'll tell you, it was not an easy road. You said we had a very robust process, but with finding a professional that was willing to put in the time to help our vision come to fruition on how we wanted to execute a master plan was very difficult because I'll tell you, our first stab out, the professional took our strategic plan that we had written as a council ourselves and put a different header on it and gave it back to us and said, here's your master plan.
Oh
like
no.
like we wouldn't realize that it was our own words.
Wow.
Right. So going through and being able to pivot and say, you know what, this just isn't the right professional to help us through this process. And luckily we were able to connect with BRS. And they were a phenomenal planning group that really saw the vision of how engaged we wanted our master plan to be and how reflective we wanted it to be of our current residents and what our current residents wanted to see in the future, and not just some ideal resident that we wanted to attract. We really wanted to cater and address the needs of the community currently.
Fantastic. Just out of curiosity, Is there a particular example of a recommendation that came out of this process thus far from residents that you've already begun to attempt to put in place as a response to what you've heard? Any particular example you want to share for our audience?
Yeah, there were a few. One of the ones was already mentioned by Dr. Worthy, which was the app. People were really saying we need to know what's going on. It's hard to get information.
Okay.
So that was one of the things that we were able to roll out pretty quickly. We had already been working on something, but I think it lit a fire under us to get that project completed and to roll that out so that residents had access to it. But also, we found that engaging with residents at these public events and different things that are happening around town, they really enjoyed that. And one of the things that they were craving was connection and opportunities to get together. So we really charged our recreation department with expanding those offerings. We did a restructure of our recreation department. It's now called the Department of Recreation and Wellness. So it's not just focused on sports or fitness. It also includes financial literacy. It includes business support. It includes social services. It includes all different types of mental health support as well to really help the full wellness of the community. And then we also included more activities and points for people to gather. This summer, we've had our Summer in Motion, where we've gone around to different parks in the community and had a DJ and some activities for kids, but also had residents and gave residents an opportunity to get together, talk to each other, and talk about some of the things that are going on in the community to each other and to us, so that we're more tapped in and supporting that need and that desire to want to gather.
Fantastic. So it sounds like something for everyone, recreation and wellness, total wellness. Fantastic. Did you want to add anything, Dr. Worthy, before we move on to our next related question?
No, I think the mayor answered it.
Great. Um, Young people, as we all know, and we love our young people, can easily be turned off from formal processes, largely because, as adults, we don't always speak well of our young or younger people. You all are also making traction in that area with respect to a new something to the audience called Vote 16 initiative. I'm going to ask Mayor Whitfield in particular to talk about that since at a recent July City Council meeting. By the way, so again, the younger people behind me, and some are nudging me. They're saying I'm hogging up all the time, so I'm going to have to switch over to them soon. But they learn because you all are very open and transparent in reporting out what happens at your council meetings. And so we got a nice summary about a July meeting in which the mayor introduced the Vote 16 initiative, which would lower the voting age to 16 for Willingboro residents to participate. I just want to be clear, is this for all elections, including school board elections?
Yeah, ideally it would be all local elections. So our school board elections as well as the municipal elections. What I'm really, really interested in is especially the school board elections. But I think if we can get it across the board for all municipal elections, that would be even better. And the proposal, as you said, allows 16 and 17-year-olds the ability to vote. And I think the intention for me is to start them working that civic engagement muscle, right? Voting once you turn 18, some people are excited about it, but some people it's just, another day. They don't see the impact. And I think if we can get to the youth younger and have them start that practice of voting, have the support in school of researching candidates and learning how to research candidates to formulate your opinion. Many of our 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds, even teaching seventh grade, civics, our students are much more politically engaged than I think a lot of people realize. They have access to the information. It's on their TikTok feeds, it's on their Instagram feeds. They know what's happening in the government. And they have questions and they have suggestions and they have ideas. Many of them are working and pay taxes. Many of them are very engaged in their and concerned about their education. So those school board elections are of, great deal of interest to them. And I think it would be great. Of course, there are some criticisms about it, right? People think, oh, students aren't mature enough to hold the weight of voting in an election. Oh, students will be too heavily influenced by their parents or by their religious groups or other people. But we're all influenced by those people around us, right? We all listen and input, to the inputs that are coming in. So I think some of those criticisms are valid, but I think our students do deserve a voice, especially when it comes to their education.
So what I'm hearing you say is that you're not dismissing outright some of the folk, particularly colleagues on the council who have some reservations about whether or not it's appropriate, whether or not there's real capacity at that age to think more critically. What I am encouraged in hearing is that you're saying, no, this would be an opportunity to, I like that, strengthen the civic muscle with supports. So not just handing over this opportunity, but let's support you as you learn to become more civically engaged. And that sounds like a wonderful idea, at least to us here at the Greenleaf Center. We have time for one more category, and that is, you know, thinking about ways in which residents more broadly can become more engaged, right? Because what you said about our young people, one could argue, we need to help those who are far beyond 21 become more responsible in how they think about folks seeking elected office. I mean, according to Robert Greenleaf, having a title or positional authority in government does not necessarily equate to being a servant leader. There is that reality of the seductive nature of power. But how do we get voters to be able to best discern the quality and capability of candidates most appropriately suited for public office? Because a lot of us are just competing. We have competing priorities. We're just trying to make. I mean, when I was city administrator, people would say, "Look, Reggie, I don't have time to be reading through bios for 20 people. I'm just trying to keep the food on the table." Our residents are being bombarded with so much information. How do we get more people engaged, more broadly speaking? Ladies.
I think part of it is as the seated elected officials, we have to do a better job of helping residents to understand the problems we're solving day to day and at a higher level that are working for them so that they can understand what to look for in other electeds. I think that it's important that we produce our annual reports. It's important that we host town halls. It's important to encourage folks to get involved in civic discussions with the local Democratic club, or if there's another party or group that's having civic discussions to understand what's going on. I think being able to leverage social groups and social clubs, Greek-lettered organizations to be able to have discussions about some of the problems and challenges that are facing communities and having people come together in groups and spaces where they're already comfortable, they're already familiar, and they trust the voice of the people around them. And I think if we're able to get more candidates who are running for office to enter those spaces, to have the conversations, I think then the public can discern the quality of candidates. I remember going to an event and hearing a candidate speak very candidly about her campaign. And based on what she said in that messaging, she thought it was very catchy, but it turned off a lot of people in the room. And so I think you're able to get that real, the candidates hear what's going on, what the people are thinking. The people can ask questions in real time. And then they can discern what's best for them and what they think is best for the community. And then they can go out and influence others of the same. But I really think it's more about more conversations. For those who are seated in office, I think we have an obligation to host listening sessions, to host town halls, to host events where people can actually share their ideas outside of a council meeting. A council meeting, you get 4 minutes. There's no real exchange. They'll call you after a meeting or send an email, but we have to create more spaces where people can have conversations, get questions answered, and then learn what to expect from others who are seated in office.
Excellent. Mayor Whitfield.
And I think one of the other things is that listening thing comes back, right? Is you really have to listen to what the candidates are saying, because many times the information and what they plan to do or what their focus is very apparent in their campaign, right? If you have a candidate who is just toting about their resume and the things that are on their resume and is not future focused or doesn't have any plans or strategies to solve any of the problems in the community, I mean, I think you can discern as an informed voter that this person may just be looking for another thing to add to their resume, right? If you're talking to candidates who are talking about strategies and the challenges that they see, what strategies they want to employ to help fix those challenges, getting feedback on things that they may not be aware of or things that they may not see. I think that listening, those asking the questions, really can illuminate a candidate that may be there to listen and fight for you, right? And what you think, because they're asking you directly, what do you think? What do you want to see? Here's what I think. Here's what I want to see. Here's how I intend on doing that. And I think in a role like this, you really do have to have some of those planning skills in place and know where you want to go before you get in the seat. Because otherwise you get in the seat and you'll be bombarded with all of these things and daily fires and issues that pop up, and you'll get so bogged up with that, you'll lose the bigger picture.
Absolutely. Wonderful. I could talk with you all day. I do have time for one more question, and it's your thoughts or reflections, really in terms of our national public discourse, because we are living in a period marked by intense polarization and divisiveness along partisan and ideological lines. And you could argue that it has ripple effects throughout, our nation, from the federal to the states, the local level. I ask you both, what's the way forward? And is there anything that gives you hope in that regard, that we could sort of break out of this pretty intense period of sometimes of paralysis? That's how deeply entrenched some of this is. So what do you both say about that?
Yeah, I think one thing that gives me hope is our youth.
Okay.
I see their engagement and their knowledge of the political climate, their strong opinions on what we should be doing and the direction that we should be going in. And that keeps me hopeful, right? That we can see better days ahead. But it is very challenging right now. Economics are really challenging. People's jobs are in jeopardy, and lots of people are out of work. Grocery prices, gas prices, people are really struggling right now. And I think, when you're struggling sometimes in areas that are out of your control, you take a harder stance in areas that are in your control, right? And who we support is within our control. That's something that we can control. But I think, as we've been saying throughout this conversation, is that listening really is the key, right? because I think at the core of it, we all want the same thing for our families. We all want safe neighborhoods to raise families in, and for young people to grow up in. We all want to be able to afford to live without breaking our backs, working 90 hours a week, you know. I think people want generally all of the same things for quality of life. And it's just how we get there, and agreeing on how we can get there is some of the things. But you have to be able to listen to the other side. There are many times where, there are people that I don't agree with, but sometimes they have a point, right? And those are things that we take in, we use as data points, and we can craft our own agenda and our own path forward in order to do that. But we also have to work together. There are oftentimes so many cooks in the kitchen, so many people that want to do their own thing or don't like how this person's working. So I'm going to branch off and do my own thing over here. And that really dilutes the impact that we're all able to have, because we're all working on the same things in different silos. And I think sometimes if we work together a little more, we'd be able to accomplish much more as a group.
Fantastic. Dr. Worthy, you get the last word on this.
I agree with what the mayor has said in terms of the youth, and I would also add that building a stronger community. So through some of these recreation and wellness programs we have, with the Summer in Motion, with the live music on Friday nights, with our upcoming jazz festival, finding these types of community events to bring folks together so that they can begin having conversations there that will then go into conversations in civic organizations to find where there is synergy. And I think that being able to get people together in a room to have discussions to find points of synergy and alignment, I think people find strength in that, and then they're ready to go out and effectuate change. And that is something that me, the mayor, and Councilwoman McIntosh did specifically. We found synergy in some of the challenges that we saw in Willingboro Township, in our schools, with our water utility and community building. We looked around and we said, you know what, we think we can solve some of these problems. And we started going to meetings. We were vocal. We wrote proposals. We worked with nonprofit organizations. The mayor was the president of the local NAACP and vicinity chapter and a branch. And there were so many things that were already going on, but it was that synergy, that community building, those spaces where we were able to connect that helped propel us forward, where we ultimately unseated 3 incumbents and won the election and have been in office since 2020. And so I think that going forward, in order to get that kind of synergy, we need community members to come forward. They need to work together. They need to put together plans. And let's figure out how we can take care of one another and take care of Willingboro despite what's happening at the national level. And I think our youth, helping us to lead that charge are a critical component.
Wow. Fantastic. Okay, I am about to have my mic turned off by some people in my office. So, Gabby, our senior project
Never.
manager, will lead off our Q&A portion. Gabby.
Thank you, Reggie, and thank you, Mayor Whitfield and Deputy Mayor Dr. Worthy, for being here with us today.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
our first question, I want to give a little context. So, as Reggie mentioned earlier, we have hundreds and hundreds of townships and municipalities in New Jersey. And the other fun thing about New Jersey is that all of these municipalities operate differently. So, Willingboro is on a council manager form of government. So, could you explain a little bit of how that form of government works? And then the question from the audience asks, in those meetings and with this form of government, do residents get the opportunity to vote on issues that are presented at meetings?
That's a that's a really good question. So I'll take the back half and then I'll take the forward half.
Okay.
So yes, residents do have the opportunity to give input. One of the things that we did when we came into office was we instituted a second public comment, right? So all of the agenda items are explained and laid out. And then we have our first public comment for 2 minutes, allowing residents to give feedback on those issues, on those topics, before it goes to a formal vote. So if there are questions, if there are concerns, if someone doesn't like something, or they think we can do something better, and they think we need to go back to the drawing board, they can give that feedback before we vote on it and before it already becomes policy, right? The way our government works is, as you said, we're a council manager. So the council sets policy, we establish a vision and a mission, we adopt the budget, we pass our ordinances and resolutions, and we hire two officials in the township manager and the township clerk, right? Those are the only positions that we control in the municipality. The township manager is our professional administrator. He manages and oversees the day-to-day operations. He supervises the staff. He implements the council policy, and he advises the council on the operations of the town. And then as mayor, we don't have a strong mayor system. So just like every other council member, I only have one vote, but I do have the responsibility to preside over the council meeting. And then also, I really try to help build consensus, because we don't always agree, but we do end up having to come to a vote or to a decision. So that is what and serve as a public figurehead for the town.
Right.
Dr. Worthy?
That's everything.
Wonderful. Okay, so our next question is local government often has to balance long-term planning with long-term planning and immediate community concerns. So we talked about that master plan, that's a part of long-term planning, but how do you ensure that urgent issues don't overshadow the long-term planning?
I think it's a combination of having the strategic plan and having annual goals. Those are things that are really important to me. And the council supported putting those things in place. So we do have a strategic plan that guides where we're going. And we'll be updating that strategic plan by either end of the year or early first quarter of 27. And then helping the township manager to understand his goals, so that he can cascade goals throughout the municipality. So if the strategic plan is 5 years and we've got the 1 year, goals, annual goals for the manager and for all the employees, then it makes it a bit easier when things pop up during the day to day, because you have an idea of where we're going. And so I think it makes it easier to make decisions day to day when you have an understanding more broadly of where you're going and what you're trying to do.
Right. Anything to add, Mayor Whitfield?
Yeah, as just to echo what Dr. Worthy said, is that planning. As I said before, it's very easy to get distracted by the fires that pop up every day. There's always something happening. There's always someone calling about something, or employees have issues and different things that happen around the municipality. It's very easy to get distracted if you don't already have a plan. So things like, big infrastructure projects can fall on the back burner if, there's a critical need somewhere else. But if you've already been working on this long-term project, you can still make progress in completing that. And I think one of the things that often gets overlooked is the amount of time things take in government. It's not short-term fixes. So even though you may have immediate problems, many times those problems still take a year, 2 years, 5 years to fix. So it's critical to have that plan in place so that everything can be addressed.
Definitely. So, going off of what you said about how things take time, do you have another misconception that you wish residents better understood about how local government works?
Ooh, Doc, you want to go first on this
Yeah,
one?
I'll take that. I think that a lot of the misconceptions, at least in Willingboro, is because we have a lot of people who've moved from large cities with strong mayors.
Hmm.
And because they're very familiar with that structure,
Hmm.
they assume that that's the structure here. I think people aren't even cognizant that there are so many different types
So
of
many.
government, forms of government.
Yeah.
And so when we get bombarded, going to the local grocery stores, or just walking around a community center with questions about the school district or a hiring of an employee or the termination of an employee, or it's all sorts of questions, valid questions, but they think that we're the ones who made the decision or had a part in the process. And sometimes they're bringing news to us. And so that,
Wow.
they're thinking we don't know what's going on in the town. How'd you hire this person? You don't even know who it is. And we're saying until the township manager presents that employee to the governing body, we
Hmm.
really don't know. We have a budget that's in place and he's hiring people against that budget, but we don't know day to day who's hired and who's fired, who's promoted, who was terminated, who, those are reporting features we'll get on a monthly report, but we're not getting it day to day. So I think just because people aren't familiar with the form of government, that leads to a lot of misconceptions and a lot of assumptions about how we're governing.
Wow, that's
Yeah, I agree. And I think I just have to echo or restate the speed of which government works, right? People think that, you can say something like, oh, yeah, we're going to improve the roads and that will happen tomorrow. Next year, we have all new roads in the township and everybody's happy and there are no potholes. Um, but that's not how government works. Yeah, we can do patch jobs and try to fix potholes pretty quickly, but in doing something like a large scale road renovation, we have 412 roads in this municipality, and we're a fairly small municipality. But in order to get through 412 roads, one, it costs a whole lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
um, and two, it takes time. You can only pave roads in certain seasons when the temperature is at a certain and the weather conditions allow. So, you're not going to get it all done in 1 year, and it'll take 4 or 5 years. I may not be in office when the project
It's
is
done, yeah.
complete. And that's with a lot of projects. You want a pool to be redone or refurbished. That's not going to happen next year. It's going to take 2, 3 years in order to get that project done. And I think that's something that people don't understand, is that it's not, snap a finger and projects get done. There's a bidding process. There's
Yeah.
a lot of design and engineering that has to go in all of this. And it takes time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we don't own all the spaces in Willingboro. Sometimes residents believe that almost any
Mhm.
vacant space, vacant property, especially if it's blighted, they believe that the township owns it. And we don't. We have certain levers we can pull if it's a blighted property or if it's an abandoned or vacant space, but we don't own all the properties. We don't own the Willingboro Town Center. It's in Willingboro, and that's what the owner named
Mhm.
it, but we don't own that. So sometimes we get frustrated residents talking to us about different renovations that they want to see in buildings and spaces, and we're letting them know that we too are expressing those concerns to the developers, but we don't own the land or the building.
Right. There's just everything you've all mentioned. There's so many moving parts, so much to understand. I do want to ask one more question before we wrap up here. So, the two of you work very closely together while serving different distinct roles as mayor and deputy mayor. What have you each learned from each other, and how has this partnership strengthened your leadership?
Yeah, and I'll say Dr. Worthy is an incredible leader, right? Her military experience, her business owner experience, she has such a tremendous background and talents that she brings to the municipality. Her work in the corporate sector, and I think all of that, and her really stepping out and taking on the mayor role first when we were elected has and helped me and informed me during my time as mayor, and then also to have her here with me and us be serving together. I think we share ideas and thoughts. We always say that we are united, right,
Mhm.
and aligned, but we're not uniform. We're not the same.
Yeah.
So we do think very differently. And I think sometimes those opposing perspectives and being able to talk through them is really helpful in leadership and government.
And I have really enjoyed supporting the mayor in her role and being able to provide, of course, the opposing perspectives. That's my favorite part, is being able to be like the devil's advocate sometimes. But I really enjoy the collaboration and coming up with, ideas together and being able to take things that, maybe I had a wild hair about something, but after speaking with her and understanding her perspective as a long-term resident, as a person who grew up in town, it adds a whole lot of flavor and perspective, that I don't necessarily innately have or appreciate or think is relevant. And I think it goes both ways. Sometimes there's more sentimentality she'll have about the town and the area. And I'm like, well, if we're trying to move forward, do we want to hold on to that? Or is that something we want to release and try to expand, And for me, she'll say, well, wait a minute. No, we're not touching that, because that is something not just me, but across Willingboro. This thing is super important. And I don't think we should touch it. And so I really appreciate being able to do that. I like the feedback, and she's very open to feedback. So I think collectively, we're able to move Willingboro forward and provide a more comprehensive perspective, not just a myopic view.
Wonderful.
Fantastic.
Well, thank you both so much for spending time with us today.
No, thank you for having us.
This was a treat for us. I love Mayor Whitfield's framing of your relationship and partnership. United, aligned, but not uniform. So that allows each of you to bring your gifts each and every day. And because of your gifts, 32,000, let me not shortchange the city, right, Mayor Whitfield, all 32,000 residents of Willingboro are the better off. So thank you for your service. I know Gabby has a couple of announcements and a request to our audience.
I do. So, the Greenleaf Center is really excited to be hosting our 5th annual Hall of Fame ceremony, which will take place on October 28th. This ceremony honors local and national leaders who are making a difference within their communities. So if you'd like to meet the honorees or become a sponsor, purchase an ad, or reserve your seat, you can head to greenleaf.org, where all event information is linked on our homepage. If you would like to stay connected with the Greenleaf Center to hear about more about the Hall of Fame or our upcoming webinars, you can follow us on these 3 platforms. We post all of our updates here. And lastly, to the audience, thank you for logging on today. If you could take a minute to complete the Zoom survey, it'll pop up right after this webinar is over. We'd really appreciate it, and we value that feedback. So thank you, Mayor and Deputy Mayor. And
Thank you, mayors, and we hope to see you again. Please stay in touch with the center.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, and we'll do.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.